what's your anxiety management per se?
So I know for me, I feed off of other people's energy big time. And so I know at least what I've done that's helped me so much is mute the group me's, y'all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to PodCAPS, where mental health matters. I'm Jed.
And I'm Christina. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about stress and academics.
Cool. So, what exactly would you say stress is, Christina, or anxiety as a whole?
So I think kind of for what we're going to focus on today is more so test anxiety type things. And so if I was to describe test anxiety, I would definitely say it depends from person to person. However, I know for me, it gets to be not necessarily sweaty palms, but it's kind of, feeling like I'm going to blank out right before I walk in the room and right before test day. I know it's like, for a lot of people, it looks like no sleep leading up to the test, which isn't good for you. That's how I would sum up kind of my test anxiety if I was to have it.
For sure. In
What
terms
about
of
you?
I guess for myself, it's just, I get really, really jittery. And
Okay.
so when it comes down to it, I become really, really, I don't want to use anxious again because that's what we're talking about.
Right.
But when it comes to it, what I feel is that I just want to get in and get out.
Right.
And
Like you just want to take it now?
exactly.
Yeah.
Or as soon as I know that it's on the schedule, I want to immediately jump in, just take it, know what I know. I don't want it to really affect my brain more than it has to,
Oh, yeah.
And so when it comes down to it, anxiety affects us all in really different ways, as you've heard from Christine and me talking about our experiences with anxiety. But when it comes to you as the person or as the listener, you're going to experience different ways or different symptoms of anxiety as a whole. And that's not just something to where you would it's general for most
Right.
people, but at the same time it's very specific because anxiety isn't just one simple
Yeah, it's like an
feeling.
all-encompassing type of thing. Like I think for many people, it varies from person to person and it's extremely unique, but at the same time, like everyone's felt it at some point. It's something that everyone kind of goes through regardless of your past experience. Because I know for some people, like high school was a breeze. You didn't have to do anything really. Like you made A's, life was good. And then I know for some people, they get to college and they kind of think it's going to be the same thing, except for when they walk in there on test day, they realize it's not. And they have to kind of learn how to do everything over again, which is weird because like you thought you had it, but you didn't type of thing.
Exactly. And so we can see that although anxiety is a bad thing, or it sounds to us at least that it's a bad
Right.
thing, we can also see that it can be a good thing, right?
Exactly.
I feel that stress as a whole is needed to push us, like almost a natural motivator when it
Oh, yeah.
comes to our everyday life. You
Oh,
know,
I totally agree.
I feel like I wouldn't get out of bed if I didn't have a deadline to take care of. It'd just be me and Netflix the entire rest of the day.
Exactly. I think you have to kind of find that sweet spot between like too much and just enough. Because I know for me, like something my dad always told me was butterflies are good. So if like you're nervous and you're having butterflies, kind of like you're a little nervous before a test or nervous before like a big game, that was kind of my case with it. Butterflies are good, right? Because they keep you on your toes, they keep your head on a swivel, they help you work at an effective and a faster-ish type of pace on a test. They kind of help you work through the problems, working through whatever you need to work through. But at the same time, like too many butterflies, right? Too many to where you kind of feel nauseous or you kind of have a racing heart or some sort of muscle tension, physical tension of any sort. And then you start having like kind of spiraling in a negative type of thinking. That's when it becomes too much. And I think for a lot of people who struggle with test anxiety, it's that too much that they get to. And it's
For
like,
sure, yeah.
that peaking.
Yeah, of course. So I guess the biggest thing here is that once we become anxious and stressful, especially in regarding anxiety, what is your what is your brain telling you as you're walking into your test and you're hitting that kind of almost overwhelming too much type of mindset? Like, is your brain like beating you down? Is it being really mean to you? Or are you kind of hyping yourself up and getting ready to take this on like you would take on a big game?
Right. And I think it's definitely all about your reaction to it. I know for a lot of people, if college is the first time they're feeling like test anxiety or like kind of anxiety at any point, if it's your first time with it, your reaction kind of is the big driver in how you respond. And so it has like a really big effect on how the outcome will go. I know for sure. Like I know a lot of people, the reason why it gets so bad is because they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, so how do you take that negative portion of your brain telling you that, hey, you're going to fail this test, you don't know enough, you aren't ready for it type of thing, and what's your way of switching it to a positive mindset?
For me, I know it's definitely, I have to think about like talking to myself how I would talk to a friend, because I wouldn't tell a friend like, hey, you don't know anything walking
Right.
to this test. Like, I mean, I don't know how you and your friends are, but personally, I wouldn't go up to a friend, and if I know that they're nervous about something or if I know that they're anxious, I wouldn't look at them and be like, yeah, no, you don't know anything. Like, you've barely been studying. Like, no, you've been working hard. Like, nothing replaces, adequate preparation for tests and studying and so on. But kind of, I guess for me, I would say talk to yourself like how you would hype up a friend
Oh, nice.
to
I
go
like
do
that a lot.
something. I don't know. What about you? How would you
Honestly,
tackle it?
so I have it to where back when I played sports in high school, I would hype myself up for it. So the morning
Right.
of the test, I would immediately turn on my game day playlist. Like I
Okay.
would just start hyping myself up, like mindset ready to take, like I'm gonna hit the big shot of the game.
Right.
However, it's just me putting in a bubble on my Scantron.
But it
But
is. It's like it's
yeah,
the same thing,
exactly.
and it's super cool that you are able to equate those two,
Yeah.
especially people who have that experience of sports backgrounds throughout high school and, coming to college and not necessarily having your sport anymore, but still wanting to stay in touch with it a little bit. Having like
Exactly.
that game day playlist, having that breakfast, like being with your team, your other classmates, maybe people that you've studied with. That's really cool to be able to kind of bring aspects of that into your life now.
For sure. All right. So when it comes down to it, we understand that test anxiety affects us all in different ways, and we see that anxiety as a whole will definitely change our perception, our perspective on things when it comes down to it. But what would be some strategies, at least for you personally, that would really help you out in terms of walking into this test and getting ready for?
Like their nervous energy, that's only going to put you in a worse place.
Yeah, it's like matching energies for a
Yeah,
test. Yeah.
it is. I mean, so I don't know. That's how I would personally deal with it because the mute button on GroupMe, it's a great thing. And like, it's there, but actually using it is huge. Like, it helps so much. At least I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, I feel like people almost place too much importance on GroupMe
They
sometimes.
do. And then when people maybe post polls of, oh, how do you think you did? And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't want to answer that.
For sure. I feel like one of the biggest things that affects us as students when it comes to test anxiety isn't necessarily the test itself. It's that we're constantly in our heads comparing ourselves to the students around us,
Oh, yeah.
where we're thinking, hey, if they're doing well in this class, I should be doing well in this class. When in actuality, you're on your own pathway.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going to be something to where, you comparing yourself to another student isn't going to necessarily help you out, because then you're putting yourself at a comparison of, let's say it's a stranger in your class, but you know that they're doing well. You're comparing yourself to someone who may have had background in this subject for however long, yet you're only taking it for this semester. And that's affecting your entire mindset because you keep comparing yourself to someone who knows more about it than you. When in actuality, hey, as long as you can remember that you need to stop comparing yourself and really take it at your own pace and study the way you study best, not thinking
Exactly.
about, hey, like, how does this person study? Maybe it'll work for me. Obviously try it, but don't
try new
bank your
things.
entire collegiate career on
Oh, yeah.
what exactly you're doing.
No, I agree with that. And I think also kind of another thing people forget is when you're like right before a test and you see your GroupMe going off, or you look at the test review and you like look at the person next to you and they're like either not freaking out or totally freaking out. It's one of those things where it's like you forget who you're here for. Like you're here for you. This is your time to shine, so to speak. Like I also think like tests in general have a super negative connotation. Super negative. Because if you think about it, like my patho professor, she constantly says that tests are an opportunity for excellence.
Right.
Which, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but she's not wrong because it's your time kind of to shine. Like if you don't talk in class, if you don't normally answer questions, like the test is where you get to show off. Like so
Nice.
do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's a different way to think about it. I feel, at least for me, I always see it as a benchmark, right? To where this is the last three chapters. I immediately have to know what I learned in these last three chapters. But then that means at the end of the semester, especially if the final doesn't include it, then I'm not going to care as much about those three chapters.
Brain dump.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like, I'm not learning as much because I'm too busy trying to focus on it. But I think that's the beauty in tests is that as soon as you take it, it's done. Like you don't have to worry about that
Right.
specific test anymore, right?
Right.
So if that test is already over with, that test anxiety should go right out the window.
Well, it should. You
It
would hope.
should technically, but I think in the end, people start worrying about the final result, the grades as a whole, and then it puts you in almost a cycle of test anxiety.
Oh yeah, and I think something kind of important to remember, and I know I have to like talk to myself and hype myself up, but like once something is done, like once you're done taking the test, you can't go back. You can't change it. You can't change your answer. At least I've never had a professor who let me change my answer on a test, so if y'all have that, let me know. Maybe I need to consider that major. But it's one of those things where it's like, what's done is done and you can't change the past. Like, say maybe you didn't do as well as you would have liked to, there's still more to come. Like, and also one bad test grade isn't going to ruin you. And I think for a lot of people and a lot of incoming freshmen, like if they fail their first test, they're just kind of like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just going to see myself out. Like, no. Like, it's all about kind of making mistakes. Like, it's all about that. Like, it's not something where it's like, no, just because you fail one doesn't mean you're done. Like, you're right where you're supposed to be, and you have to believe that and believe in yourself type of thing.
For sure. And I guess like not just test anxiety, but we really receive this type of anxiety when it comes to anything big, whether it's a ton of homework piling up all at once or a really big project with the group. It's just everything that you can apply to test anxiety probably applies to those different other types of
Literally
homework
anything
and work.
important.
Exactly.
Anything important in your life.
And so when it comes down to it, one of the biggest things that here us at CAPS really stress is that you, one, prepare in advance for whatever it is
Yeah.
you're about to encounter, whether it be a project or homework or a big test. Make sure that you're prepared. And that doesn't mean cramming the night before on any subject that you're learning. If that's the way that you need to study, it's not recommended. But, if
But
it
if
works
that works for you,
then,
like,
hey,
do
yeah.
it. Like, that's amazing.
Exactly. But, aside from that type of mindset, really prepare for
Yeah.
what's to come because, anything could happen in between that time. And so you just want to know that you're set and you're okay with what's about to hit you, because some people can walk right into a test and they feel confident. Then they walk right out and they feel like they got hit by a train.
Yeah.
And that's
for
tough,
sure.
But
It is.
if you feel prepared, maybe you can lessen the blow.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also think that, like, I know for me, because I'm the kind of student where I'll attend class, like, religiously. Like, I take notes, I do all of that. Like, I'm a textbook reader, so I'll actually get the textbook and I'll actually read it. But it's one of those things where it's like, I know for some people, test anxiety might not be something that goes away in time. And it doesn't matter how much they prepare or, like, how often they attend class. It doesn't matter how well they do on assignments or quizzes. You do have some people who are just naturally a little more nervous just because that's how, I wouldn't say, maybe that's how they're wired type of thing. And honestly, that's okay. Like, it's okay to be nervous before a test. Like, that means you care. Like,
For sure.
I know for some people they're like, well, it's just like I always get like this, and oh, well, so-and-so doesn't get that nervous. Well, so-and-so doesn't get that worked up. And it's like, yeah, but it's okay because you're not them, they're not you.
Exactly.
And that's perfectly normal. And I think as long as you're taking all the right steps for you, like preparing as much time as you need in advance, like studying for how much you need in advance, like, because like as you said, some people will get into a class, will take it, have no issue, can literally just show up to class, understand, take the test, get an A. And for some people, it takes more work, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Of course. So when it comes down to it, you've just walked out the test, you've finished up on your midterms, and you hear this podcast, and you came into those tests feeling really, really anxious, feeling really, really scared, and you take a listen and you're wanting a bit more information, or you're thinking, what should I do after the test? Like, what should I do to be better for next test?
Right.
You know, so one of the biggest things, not just anxiety, but it's balancing your stress,
Oh, yes.
right? So us as students, we have to really emphasize on stress relief as a whole, right? So what are things that you do in your own personal time and your hobbies that really help you balance out your stress and
Yeah.
really enable you to put it in different sections so where you're not overwhelmed all at once?
Yeah. And I know for me at least, something that I use to de stress, but at the same time kind of keep my head in shape, is I go work out. Working out to me is one of the most stress relieving things for some reason. I can't explain it. It's just I have so much energy that I decide, you know what, I'm just going to go work out for 3 hours after a test. And that's how I reward myself. For some people, it's, oh, I'm going to treat myself to lunch, or, oh, I'm going to go take a nap because chances are you didn't sleep the night before. Also, again, perfectly normal for some people. That's not something where we're telling you that you have to change it. Everyone responds differently, but I know for me, I'll definitely sleep before a test, but like, I like to go work out to de-stress, to kind of keep it in balance. What about you? What do you do?
I'm a lot the same way. As soon as I'm out of this test, I'm looking forward to what I have for the day. Whether it's something to where it's just really relaxing my mind, whether it's going rock climbing or just taking a walk or getting some exercise in, as long as I'm moving, my brain's not overthinking.
Right.
And so that's very big for me. But or that's very big for me. But when it comes down to it, the biggest thing is that I know it's over, you
Right.
know? And so what I'll actually do the night of the test and then the night after is I'll really take a moment to meditate. And I'll take about 20, 30 minutes to really think, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to clear my mind. I'm going to let my mind wander for a bit and let it kind of do its thing. Then I'm going to bring it all right back and I'm going to take on the day.
Right.
So it's really just, preparing my mind and then afterwards clearing my mind of all the clutter that it picked up from the day before. And so that's in general, and here at CAPS, we have that really big, not a really big, but it's the revive, renew, yeah, the
Meditation.
renew, relax, and revive meditation,
Yeah,
right? That program.
mindfulness.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
And it's huge. And there's definitely, it's one of those things where we wouldn't be on here talking about it if there wasn't studies and science behind it. So if you want to fact check us, feel free, because I promise you it actually works. As Jed just said, that he uses it. I know for a lot of people, we have it like 2 times a week, and it's something where you might think you know how to be mindful. You might think you know how to breathe and stay calm in stressful situations, but actually learning it, actually utilizing some services we have at CAPS, I think it definitely puts a whole different perspective on it. And maybe you didn't really exactly know what it was before, but once you kind of go to a session where you have, either an ambassador leading it or a clinician or just someone, a professional, it's a whole different, I wouldn't say ball game because I don't want to keep using sports analogies, but I would say it's a different experience for sure.
Of course. But in the end, there's some of us who unfortunately would not be able to really balance out our stress, or we need a little bit more help. And as a
Right.
whole, that's what CAPS is here for. If stress and everything here at school is getting a little bit too much and you just need a quick person to talk to, or at least find services that will help you out, stop by Ransom Hall or the MAC and see clinical and psychological services, because they will put you in a position to succeed within your own brain and consequently within your own body. And it's a really trickle down effect where if your brain's in the right place, your body will be too. It's just you feel like you have to take the first step in pushing yourself to go do it.
Yeah. It's like a mind, body, soul kind of connection. And as long as you're trying to keep all three good, I feel like overall as a person, you're feeling good in life. I think another thing kind of to keep in mind with like just test anxiety and kind of being overwhelmed in college in general is when you're here, especially at UTA, you have like everyone around you wants you to succeed. Your professors want you to succeed no matter how hard they make the class. Like they do want to see you succeed. They want to see you do well. And it's the same with CAPS, like counseling and psychological services. It's here for faculty as well, but it's also like the main priority is students. They want you to be able to understand that they're here for you and they want you to be able to do well and be okay and succeed and, feel good.
For
It's
sure.
something, I don't know, I think a lot of people might not necessarily think about, but they want, their students to be comfortable.
For sure. And so before we sign off, is there any last minute advice that you want to tell our listeners?
Guys, just keep going. Guys and girls, keep going, keep pushing. I know it's rough, but that's how it is sometimes in college. And trust me, you're going to take these experiences and everything that's happening, and it's only going to prepare you for what's to come. So kind of keep that in the back of your head when you're struggling.
Nice.
What about you? Any wisdom words?
I think rest in peace Kobe Bryant, but he said this best. He said that the dream isn't necessarily once you're making the game-winning basket. And we're back to sports analogies.
Here we
but,
go.
but the dream is when you're up late at night, getting that late night workout in, putting up those shots, knowing that you're going to be in that position soon. And so, understanding that the real dream of being in college isn't necessarily getting that A on that test. It's that grind that that you're prepared yourself to really be in a position to succeed.
It's the satisfaction of it.
Exactly. And so in the end, I think that was one of the best things I've read, and it pushes me every single day. So
That's really good.
cool. Well, next week we'll be talking about, or next time I'd say, we'll be talking about what it looks like to really get into counseling resources. And we'll be talking to someone from clinical and psychological services here at UTA. So if you are questioning about that, please stay tuned and tune in next time. So that way you can get more information on that. And if you have your own tips and ideas for what you want to hear us talk about here at CAPS, and please let us know on any of our social medias. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Ideas, topics, anything y'all want to hear. Again, CAPS is here for y'all, your professors are here for y'all, and we're here for y'all. So whatever y'all want to hear, just let us know.
Exactly. Well, I'm Jed.
I'm Christina.
And this was PodCAPS, where mental health matters.